episode, we're going to tackle an exhaust leak. Okay, so this is our 1980 Volkswagen Rabbit Convertible. I believe it's got a 1.6 liter engine in it, gas engine. And if you're a frequent watcher of the videos, my daughter's been driving this for approximately 3 years, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, I'm not sure exactly. But recently it developed an exhaust leak. I think kind of from maybe the exhaust manifold or somewhere towards the engine side of the exhaust anyways. So we're going to investigate that today and see if we can get that fixed. I think kind of from briefly doing a little bit of research and looking at it, we're going to probably have to remove the intake manifold to be able to access all the nuts and bolts of the exhaust manifold. So we're going to slowly kind of work at it. It could be a nightmare as these are all quite often rusty and difficult to get off, but slowly work at it and see how it goes. Okay, so as you saw there, I actually started from underneath. I just wanted to make a little bit more room, so I removed the downpipe here. Came off surprisingly easily. I did use some penetrating oil just to kind of pre-lube the nuts and bolts, but I managed to get it off without breaking anything. So now I think I'm just going to make some room up here, probably remove like this air box tube, breather tube, and maybe I'll try working from the top here. So let's hope we don't break any bolts, but we're probably going to. Okay, so after making some rooming here and kind of feeling around back there, I think it might be easier to actually come up from below to try and get the bolts that hold the throttle body or fuel intake on there. So what I'm going to do is probably go underneath. I believe they're 6mm Allen head bolts. I'm using a socket with an Allen head adapter on there. So let's give that a try. Okay, so we got everything apart. Got the intake manifold off. It's a dirty mess. Got the exhaust manifold off. And we got the downpipe off. So my original plan was to remove the intake manifold to give me better access to the exhaust manifold. That was what my research suggested. So that was what my initial plan was. It started to come off really good. All 6 of the bolts weren't too bad and loosened off okay. One of them I had a big problem with. It basically, the Allen head insert stripped. So I tried some heat, I tried some other things, tried some oversized Allen head sockets, weren't working. So finally what ended up working was these bolt-on or Irwin bolt grips. So it's kind of got teeth on the inside of the socket. I was able to just hammer it onto the head of this Allen head bolt, and with some more heat it finally broke loose. So while I was struggling with that, I took a bit of a break and I started to work on the exhaust manifold and the nuts that I had access to underneath. They all came loose pretty easily. A couple of them, the stud itself started back off, but that's no big deal. So while I was getting frustrated with that, I even started to work on the upper ones, and I was able to get all of them loose and undone as well. So technically I probably could have gotten this exhaust manifold off without removing the intake manifold, but as you can see, it's a dirty mess, and I'm just going to clean up the whole engine bay and do some wiring as well. So got everything apart. On initial examination, there does not seem to be any cracks or anything in the manifolds themselves, which I guess is good, but that leaves us wondering where that exhaust leak was coming from. So anyways, maybe it just blew a gasket or something. So we'll be replacing all the gaskets on the exhaust manifold, intake manifold, this down pipe. It's got this heat shield on here, so that's the only place that I can't really see if there's a crack or something in there, but that seems to look pretty good. So anyways, we'll get everything cleaned up, do another inspection, and then we'll get everything back together. Okay, so I have this basically cleaned up now. It is anything but perfect, but it's not a show car by any means. I just wanted to get it cleaned up so I could inspect it a little better, make sure there wasn't any damage, and it looks pretty good. For those of you that have kind of been following the videos in this particular project car as we've gone along, you'll know we picked this up as a bit of a father-daughter project for my daughter. It was her first car, and we did a majority of it. The project was bodywork, so we haven't done too much in the mechanical aspect other than what we just had to do to get it on the road. She was fairly anxious to get driving it as it was her first car, and she wanted to drive it to her final year of high school. So with that being said, when I bought the car, the guy that sold it to us was giving me a sales pitch on how he had updated the throttle body or the intake to give it more power and turn it into a bit of a hot rod. I'm not a Volkswagen guy, so I didn't really know what he was talking about, and I didn't really care at the time. I was assuming we were going to have to replace a bunch of parts. So, and the price was cheap enough that it didn't really matter. So now that I have this off and looking at it, from what I can tell, this is the original intake manifold. It's got a date on it here, like 15/10/79. The car is a 1980. It does have a part number here, Volkswagen Audi part number, but I think this piece here is all stock. When I flip this over, I think what he has replaced is the throttle body here. It looks a little bit newer, and it has a bunch of the air intake or air passages plugged off. You can see one right here. This is a little hose with a screw in it. There's another one right here which did have a hose, vacuum hose that goes to the CIS injection system on the car. There's another port back here that's got a cap on it with a little hose clamp. But as I was looking at it, I was investigating all these ports. I did notice this. It's got a little bit of a white cap on it. I tried blowing through it initially, and then I just decided, well, let's pull this off and see what it is. And unbelievably, this is like a nozzle, an uncut nozzle for like a silicone tube or something. It's threaded to thread onto your silicone container. Normally you would cut that off, lay a sweet bead, but they've used it as a plug on this hose connection to seal that off. How well it's sealing, we do not know, but we will get this cleaned up and we will put a proper piece of hose and plug it off or something, come up with a little something a little bit more professional than that. And if you've got any information on this throttle body, it does have some numbers on here as well. From what I can see, it says B7, I think /89, so maybe it's off an 89. I'm not really sure. 662 5037M. So if you have any information on this throttle body, I think now that I'm looking at it, and from what I can remember the guy saying a few years ago, I think maybe these ports are bigger, a little more air through, more power, who knows. Anyways, leave any information you have in the comments, and we'll continue on getting this cleaned up and back on the car. Okay, so just looking at the kind of the face of the engine there where my manifolds connect, it looks like at least a couple of those exhaust manifolds, kind of the two end ones, where looks like possibly they were leaking. It's a bit of a mess because we do have a bit of an oil leak, I think, coming down from the valve cover. We did replace the valve cover gasket, as you saw in one of the earlier videos, but I think it might be leaking again. And plus, we never did clean this up very well down the side of the engine after that. So we'll get all this cleaned up and get some new gaskets, and hopefully that will solve our exhaust manifold problem, or exhaust leak, I mean. And we'll also, you can see a couple of the studs, looks like 3 of the studs for the exhaust manifold came out with the nuts, so we'll replace those. The others we will chase with the die or tap and clean the threads up. So, we use some anti-seize to make it a little easier for them to come on and off the next time we have to do any kind of work on here. But overall, those came off fairly well, so I can't complain. Nothing broke. Yay, yay. Okay, so we're out of time for today. We got all the parts off. I got to order some gaskets, get everything cleaned up fairly well. The exhaust manifold and this downpipe was much to do about it. The intake manifold was kind of gungy, but we got that cleaned up. So yeah, as always, if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. See you next time on Analog Generation.